So I must go and give myself oral herpes from some stinky man's nether regions just to get my YouTube channel. Like the level of perversion. Like I said, what could potentially go wrong with sexual sin? A slew, a plethora. Like people out here giving each other fellatio prior to marriage and claiming they never had sex before marriage. That's what could go wrong with fornication. When you don't have the truth rooted as to what is okay and what is not okay, you will come up with doctrines so as to, little slivers of activity that are outside your approved text, your approved doctrines, your approved dissertations. You will accommodate them because, this here is a fluid changing doctrine. It is, like Satan, not prepared to stick to one loyalty. Hence he fell apart from God. So therefore you are not prepared to stick to the loyalty that in and of himself cannot change. His name is God. He is loyal, right? Yeah. And he is also a hard task master. He is an iron rod. However, he is also gentle and lowly, like a lamb. He can award you tranquility of recovery and stroke your cheek and wipe away your goo, wipe away your drool, and brush your teeth and take out that halitosis. But if you give him grief, like I said, iron fist, machete, slice your head right off. That is the God that we are dealing with over here. And he will take no prisoners. And if people do not by gentle conviction or gentle influence, if they do not come to him, he will literally rip the carpet from underneath their feet and make them eventually worship at his feet. They will fall at his feet. They will, with a thud, land, having been stubborn in the run-up too. And when you hold on to him and you trust these things as true, you will not be shaken. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and they're safe. Those who believe in him are like Mount Zion that will not be shaken but endure forever, right? And if at all you're not going through a moment of doubt like Peter after taking his eyes off Jesus, nobody can shake you. As saints, we vacillate between absolute trust and fluffy around like Peter. When we are like Peter, he fishes us out of the ocean anyway and says, oh, you have little faith. He will rescue us anyway, for he remains faithful even when we're faithless, for he cannot deny himself. However, when we are strong on our convictions, more so are we not blow-dowable. More so do we not barge. And I've got my seasons of being like Peter and my seasons of being so strong that don't nobody move King touches on MC Hammer, right? Yeah, I've got my seasons. But whichever season I'm in, the Lord always says this: I've never lost a battle. Da-da-da-da, never lost a battle. He never loses a battle even when the saint flounders. Now, a God that is that sturdy on your behalf, guys, who neglects so great a salvation? I need to pee. The way I like my cat sometimes. I get one fella for 2 seconds. I don't want my cat on my bed because it's an outdoor cat and every so often it bathes in dust and it's just so dirty. So I don't want it on my bed. I put a separate place for it out there. Over there, and I try to make it as warm and cushy as possible. But I have to wash it every like 2 or 3 days because it just gets so muddy. I will sometimes, my cat will be chilling over there. I'll wait and it will look like she's fast asleep, like as in lights out, hey? Lights out. Ingati she's on another planet, the way I'm gone cutting, hey? But go to the bathroom for 5 seconds. When I come back, getting deep into my blankies. If I remember that advert back in the day, Yasamunia Cruz, Father Creeper is my name, and I'm creeping for your love. Yeah, men in the occult be like that. Men in the occult be like, Father Creeper be like my cat. Aren't you giving it rules? It knows, okay, you can only chill over there. And then when you are busy unlocking the door, one eye opens, and as soon as you're out the door, it then creeps into your blankets. Yeah, that's what's good. Such that now when I go out to go and take a shower, or be gone for long periods of time, I like, get out, psst, get the stepping, get the step in. Happy when I come back to sit here officially. This time around I went out and decided to go pee, because I'm just going to pee. It's like 2 seconds. Then I'm back. And my cat was like Father Creeper, creeping for your love, getting in my blankets, and just like my cat, Myri, do you understand? Are these men, always bathing in some dust, always diving into conspicuous women's nether regions? Come into my life, draw with me, do a strange thing, drive by shooting, making like a boy in the hood. Yeah, all up in my grill. I'm out here taking AIDS, HIV tests, I'm out here taking gonorrhea tests, I'm itching, I'm burning, I'm afflicted, I am worried, I've got herpes, oh Father Creeper, like my cat, and I don't even understand why you're in my house, because unlike my cat, I did not adopt you from the streets. I didn't agree. So you are more forceful than my cat. Anyway, let's go back to the thing that I was talking about, okay? I just had to scoot my cat out of my blankies, and thank God I'm telling you, she's not that dirty. Frankly, in winter, she's not that dirty. Because Dagna's cat is so lying, like a carcass on the side of the road, in some grass or in some sand. Marakasamba, she can literally sometimes come here. It's a white cat looking like the scarf. Brown. How you gonna let something that miry chill on your linen? But I mean, I can't go by it. It's my cat. Nina manje. There are 3 animals all up in my nizoti. Why would I wanna keep one in my house? Right? Anyway, anyhow, like I said earlier, yes, what could go wrong with various hedonistic passions, hey? Things that are pleasuring your body. Let's then now think also about work. Work, that's the one that I thought of in the bathroom or some. Which one can I use next? I was like, whack. Work. When you are a pleasure seeker, when you are trying to titillate the flesh, work. Why do you even do it? Why do you even do it? Every last one of us, according to the scriptures, is supposed to work by the sweat of our brow to do what? Eat, right? Just to eat. Like, we have to eat. We have to have homes. We have to have, what do you call this? Cars, houses. We have to feed some people. We gotta put some panties on them 5-year-old, bike. We have to take that same 5-year-old to preschool. Yeah, that's why we work. But is it your natural desire or your inclination to work? Do you just wake up in the morning on some, I just really want to grind like a dog. I would absolutely adore to scorch in the sun with great heat, sweat it up a storm, lose 3 shades of complexion, and then go home famished. I want to do it so bad. Most of us, and by most I mean by a landslide, all the way starting from school, would much rather not work, would much rather get things done and just fill out with us just sitting around merely gathering dust, blobbing. It's why as kids, we have to be dragged out of bed by strict parents and alarm clocks that are sharp in our ears, like shards breaking therein, just to wake up to go to school. We have to be dragged to bathtubs in order to be ready for said day as this. Before the school bell rings, we are anxious with our hearts palpitating that it will ring in just 10 minutes. And so the glory of the playground is going to be over. And then I'm going to be sitting in front of this teacher insisting that I keep quiet. And for the whole day, I must just listen to her tell me that 1 + 1 is equals to 2. I'm like, but why do I have to know? Why? And as I'm listening to her tell me that 1 + 1 is equals to 2, I'm looking at my watch on some when is break. It's a trudging. Literally. A striving in the forest, in a bush, a sea of sharks encircling you at the ocean. It is a triathlon. To get through school, to get through gainful employment, because it's work. It is fulfillment of Bible prophecy pertaining Adam and Eve falling. From now on, Adam, for doing that which you hath performed, thou shalt work by the sweat of your brow in order to eat. And so now, we don't work easily. But we are born dead in trespasses and sins that our parents conceive us, just like with Adam and Eve having fallen. Now the rest of us are subjugated to that tyranny. We are now fallen beings. So because we are fallen beings, this trudging through work, is then met with the sinful nature. Listen, work was not with striving prior to the fall. What I want to say is this trudging through work is now met with slavery to sin that then makes us innovate, like in Romans 1, new ways to sin. Work is necessary for us to feed the flesh, right? Our needs are catered to by the work that we perform by the sweat of our brows. What then could possibly go wrong when work that feeds the flesh's needs is not within the context of an absolute truth? When you are just a pleasure seeker, when you are just 2 Timothy 3 boulevarding, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, what could go wrong? This is where people introduce slavery. Please. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna sit. I'm gonna gather all this dust while you do it for me. Yeah, when you don't want to work, you manufacture as human beings slaves. Do you understand what I'm saying? Those that are gonna do work for you, and then you don't do what? Reward them for that work. The Lord said, work by the sweat of your brow that you might do what? Eat. Yeah, so essentially it is an abomination in his sight to work by the sweat of your brow and not eat. And slavery is the very definition of working by the sweat of your brow and not eating. And I am one today. Who has made out of me a slave? A cornucopia of insulted beings that think of me as the imagination of tomorrow. They imagine me as something that is thinking things up in the sky and have got a pipe dream therefore. I believe in unicorns, which indeed I do because they're in the Bible, but nonetheless, they're imagined as magical creatures. So for those reasons, I am made to look like one who believes in unicorns. And so because I believe in unicorns, whatever facets of me can be salvaged, whatever parts of me can be looted, plundered, whatever parts of me can be taken for scraps, they will take them. So I've got people copying my content, including the chick from YouTube, literally copy-pasting verbatim some of the things I say and then proliferating yourself as, right? The person who is the originator of this stuff, I spoke about the plagiarism of my work by some of the people who watch my content before, so I'm not going to labor on it. But among the people who plagiarize me is this woman from YouTube. She started a whole channel that is Christian, that is literally premised around my message more or less, but without really being me. The other day, I overheard her lamenting, like the Lord showing me her laments, to herself. I'm not as beautiful as her, so I'm not going to present as well. I'm also not as creative, and I'm also not as smart. And these things that she says, they just flow naturally from her. Whereas I have to work hard. It's like I have to script it, and even then I script it based or premise around she's plagiarizing my work. I then got a dream of her wearing impakazam, especially in particular. Remember the day when I put that sticker with that pink hat and the C in the center? Yeah, and it has it has glosses on. This chick was like that. Go YouTube, right? Go where she was working, but she was wearing that whole outfit, evidencing a theft of something that belongs to me, inspired by nothing but jealousy. This chick has got something that she's got running for herself that is similar to what I'm doing, but she can't quite be exactly what I am. So for those reasons, she's maintained with those eyes that are green, because she eats a lot of vegetables. She's killing me because she's not giving God an acceptable sacrifice. She's not a living epistle. She is a charlatan, a wolf in sheep's clothing. She is a counterfeit, however, presenting herself as the real deal, premising her ministry around who? Me, Clan K, because she covets what I do, admires it to a certain extent, wants to walk in the thing that I am, but without the true source of who I come in the name of. She doesn't want to be Christian only to look like she is, and therefore doing the work of the Lord. Envy can make people do stuff like that, so work gone wrong can produce plagiarism. It's giving copycat. It's giving I won't put a reference list, I won't acknowledge the source. It's giving it's my work, but people don't know that it actually belongs to Clan K. It's giving slavery. Do you understand? Work can produce slavery. It can cause other people to regurgitate and vomit work. Hating work makes out of victims of exploiters. Rumpelstiltskin little gold weaving lady. This woman after having to weave gold for a leprechaun, for crying out loud, because that woman caned for the life of her in order to keep her child. Guess this gangster's name. Until one day she follows him to a bar and says, your name is Rumpelstiltskin? And now here lies this lady be set free finally. Yeah, Rumpelstiltskin Archer holds hostage a lady weaving gold for him. Indefinitely wire, and J. Just a random crazy dude. Because he doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to work. He wants to amass for himself gold bars, but without working. Working is an instruction from God and a judgment on the human race. We work by striving in order for us to eat. God awards us pleasures everlasting. He is our provider, Jehovah Jireh. He provides for us exceedingly and abundantly above anything we can ever ask for. And he provides for us in accordance to his riches and glory. He loves to provide. But on the side of the fall, even saints gotta work like little dogs to get what we need. The Lord will not award you your degree by simply telepathically just breathing, understanding into your brain like you're Neo in the Matrix, learning jujitsu. He won't do it. If you seek the Lord's face to pass university with a magna cum laude, the Lord is not going to plug you into some system in the Matrix that is going to download information into your understanding so that you can just pass with flying colors. He's going to tell you, okay, you need to drop the parties, the clubs, drop the alcohol, drop the random social events, spend all your time in the library, pre-plan before lectures, ABC, then honey, it's yours, it's in the bag. It's in the bag. It's in the bag. Yeah, it's in the bag. That's not the tenement of the Lord helps those who help themselves. It's the tenement of the Lord made it clear that if at all you're going to work heartily as unto the Lord. You see, that's the absolute law. That's the truth. That is the veracity. That is work. But what could go wrong with work? Like I said earlier, first and foremost, there is the issue with slavery. People will use other people to do work for them. Slavery, of which you can also see in schools where people be out there making other people do their essays. I have had my own fair share of some crazy woman where I was working at MTN, literally tried, not MTN, but at Netbank in the call center. Some chick wanted me to write her an essay that she was writing for, I can't even know whether it was an assignment at school or some audition or interview that she wanted to go to for some other job. She wanted me to write it for her. I was like, no, write your thing, and seeing as I'm good at editing, I will proofread it for you, but I'm not going to write you anything from scratch. To a point of even wanting to pay me to write it for her. I was like, do I look like an alinako? In of myself, I'm a student at Wits. I have got to do my own thing, so I'm not going to write your speech for you with you just giving me general bullet points flying around as to more or less what the skeleton, give me a skeleton of more or less what you want me to say. I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, but you find crazy people like those out here making other kids write their essays, out here making other kids do their homework, out here making other colleagues write their speeches. I had a boss at MTN that literally I had burned the midnight oil the night before, slept at something like 1 a.m. just preparing a PowerPoint presentation that was very important. We were petitioning for some money. You know how these sponsors can be so stingy and anyway, whatever. Some sponsor Oki, we were trying to convince them why we need more money, and I needed to do a motivation and inspiration onto these lines. And I had to basically explain with my ears on the ground as the project manager that is involved with the resources and dealing with the actual fires on the ground that we are fighting. I therefore am in the best position to present this particular petition for extra dough from the stingy rando sitting on MTN money like it's his own little stash underneath his bed. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, I sit like gathering all the insights from all the resources in my project up until like 1 a.m. or something, alright? So I sleep, you know, after when you've been working on something really hard, like when you've been studying the night before and you're writing the next day, you literally dream about everything in your textbook. You can't sleep properly because you are so anxious. Yeah. I sat around with that level of anxiety preparing this PowerPoint, and then of course slept with a similar anxiety to a point of dreaming about the bullet points in the PowerPoint. Wake up in the morning still thinking about the PowerPoint presentation, bullet points, and at 11:30, I remember the meeting was at 11:30 because I was anxious about that meeting pretty much from the night before when I was preparing that PowerPoint, so therefore you can imagine just my sorrow as to how long it took for us to finally have the meeting. It should have started at like 9 in the morning so I could get it over and done with, but nonetheless it was at 11:30 in the morning. I get to this meeting at 11:30, and how I used to do my work, my PowerPoints that I would present from, right? I would insist that the stuff be up there for people to see them, but the thing about my PowerPoints is that I would put bullet points because I can expand. I know the content of what I'm going to speak about. I understand what's going on in my project. All I put are bullet points, not the whole full thing, and then the information is deep. And this information that was deep was the very thing that was going to convince this man to give us money, right? Yeah, this general manager Oki, he was going to give us money based on my expansions, because I mean I am the project manager. My boss comes to that meeting because the person in the room is so important, such a big honcho, and she wants to impress him too. She rocks up. Usually she didn't attend my meetings. I didn't even expect her to come to that meeting. I only CC'd her in that meeting, in that invitation. Cross copy invited her because she was my boss, just as a matter of, for your information, I didn't expect her to come because she wasn't at every one of my meetings. So whatever, next thing, like I get to the meeting room and she's there. I'm like, oh hi boss, what's good? Hallelujah. Alright, praise the Lord. I tend to project my PowerPoints, but like I said, the thing that I had projected was just mere bullet points that I would expand on. But it was quite an elaborate PowerPoint that I had worked on pretty much the whole night, the night before, remember? Yeah. I sit in this room, do you understand? And my PowerPoint is yawning while we wait for this GM guy to rock up. It's already sort of kind of projected. We wait for this GM, or was it, yeah, I think it was a general manager or whatever. We wait for him to rock up while my boss is in the room, and the two of us are quietly waiting for this guy. We're not even having a conversation other than the first hello when I first found her in there. But my PowerPoint is already kind of like stuck up there. It's already just chilling. It's hanging like a homie. Like mo kodimo mo le. Hey bana batong. Na kopa ling ni go waiting tibang wanong tshwareng morao tshwareng. It's a good thing I wasn't a violent lady. Yeah. Therein lies the PowerPoint, perched like a bird in a tree. Right there. This woman, I'm thinking she's on her iPhone doing whatever. Kanti, she's making like a peeping Tom ogling at my bullet points. The meeting commences. The gentleman arrives and I try to open the meeting. I have had people literally take over my meeting like a guy cutting in front of you in traffic, and I would feel so upset, but I'd do nothing about it. I was already a Christian, so I told myself that I'm a lover, not a fighter. But one day I'm gonna crack your teeth like I'm Missy Elliott or whatever. Anyway, whatever. I try to start the meeting. I try to open some hi, thank you for arriving everybody. What's up? And chest bump, fist bump. I tried to start the meeting. Thanks for coming. These are the points that we're trying to cover today. This is what we were going to talk about. I had it all laid out as to what we were going to talk about, and a nice little motivation, and tried to extract from this man basically timelines or agreements as to what he's willing to do, what he's willing to concede. I needed this information because, you know, there are some resources in your projects that you can only get when the rainbow is only one color. Do you understand? Like, basically it's such a rare occasion that is frankly impossible. It is possible to get a rainbow that's pure white. Y'all know that, right? Because somehow the way that it's reflecting, you just have this ring of white, but it's rare. Usually you will see all of the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Yeah. That was one of those resources in the business that you only got to see when the rainbow was white. Hard to get. Like, schedule booked from here to Timbuktu. Dude is always in Spain, even though he's in the building, because he's hard to get. Like a chick that's the baddest one in high school. A man that's hard to get. Understand, if he's here for me for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'm gonna get as much out of him as I need. I'm gonna juice him like a straw. Do you understand? And hold him to his words, because going forward, he's gonna send me his insincere, lackluster runners that are not gonna give me what I want, and that are not gonna be able to make me the kinds of promises that I wanted. This is what I was trying to extract out of this gentleman. Yeah, okay, very well. My laptop was already open, stuff is already projected, and I'm like, just as I'm to say, hi everyone, welcome. Hey, this woman, so, Mark, this is then what we need for this particular project. As you can see over there, bullet number 1, we need ABC, and this is for this resource in this department. What's that over there, Karabo? Oh, Jabu Mazibuku, yeah. Jabu Mazibuku is the developer, and he says that he's not able to do this, and for that we need a purchase order for 200,000 rands, and then literally reading bullet after bullet on my PowerPoint. She overtook my meeting like a driver cutting you off in traffic, and she did not even get to all the points. She's my boss. I'm not about to insubordinate her. I'm also not going to fight her in a cockpit wearing a G-string like an unruly lady. I'm not going to do anything of that nature. I'm dealing also with a resource, right? A general manager, a stakeholder that is hard to get by me in particular, because I am a runner. In and of myself, I'm a minion. In and of myself, I am a project manager. She, however, is our senior manager. She's our program manager, and so therefore she is in meetings where she can just take him to the side. She can just take him to a corner. Like, those meetings where there's all these important people in there, and because it's something that you've always just wanted to say to someone, even though you didn't book a meeting with them, you can always just, take them on the side and say, hey, but what about this thing? She had better access to him than I ever could have. I was only awarded special rights to see this guy on the day when I broke a party cracker, and woo, out came an accepted meeting invitation from this GM, whereas you can catch him coming out of some other meeting full of big bosses. You overtook everything. This woman was so full of sabotage. She was so full of sabotage. I cried. Like, one appraisal, on Psalm 37, my Bible was, in your Bible, when pages of a book are all crinkled up because it's got water landed, it's got a water stain. When pages have water stains, my Bible had water stains on it. Because of how she appraised me. If at all she was in any of my meetings, she would take them over. I thank God she was so busy that she wasn't in every one. Man, this woman was trying to control the narrative of how I look on the outside. And if at all I was in front of important bosses, more so would she overtake me like a bad driver in traffic. It's a good thing I didn't have road rage, otherwise I would have been, hey, I don't fuzzy, shame. The bullet points, and I understand she's reading them verbatim, letter by letter, word by word, right? She doesn't have the context that I've got. She is unable to blow up the whole thing as I can blow it up. Basically to create the motivation, the inspiration, and also to create confidence in this man about what I'm doing for him in his project, because he's the owner, right? The sponsor of the project. Meeting that was supposed to last about 15 to 20 minutes. It lasted 10 minutes because all she did was read bullet points. This man probably felt like I wasted his time. Why? Because he was expecting to hear a big fat thing. Why? Because in the invitation and in the email that I wrote him beforehand, I just had such an elaborate explanation in the email as to what in the world I was trying to do, and it was therefore worth his while for him to accept this invitation. So when he came into the room and my boss read off bullet points, he probably felt like, this is what I got off my desk for. I could have just read this in an email. I was going to expand. And this woman had this man in and out of there within just minutes. I can't tell you what happened eventually, because I don't recall, right? We probably did get the money, I don't know. But just the rapport, the relationship that I would have created with this general manager, and my future ability to easily tap on his shoulders because of the trust that he will now have had in me, the confidence that he will now have had in me. She took it away just like that. Carpet ripped from underneath my feet. Yeah, that's what could go wrong with work when it is not godly, when you are not a godly human being. That's what you could do with work. You will literally go and make like the Pac-Man and gobble up a person's hard work, midnight oil, slept past midnight, 1 a.m., dreamt about this PowerPoint, labored with anxiety up until 11:30, only for somebody else to parrot what is on a PowerPoint. That's what happens. That's what could go wrong. What would Jesus do, however? The Lord says that if anybody does not want to work, let them not eat. The Bible makes it clear that allot every man in accordance to his labor. In the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, no longer is a person going to till on a field, work hard on it, graveyard shift and everything, and not be able to eat of its fruit. Because it is a travesty and an abomination before Emmanuel for a person to work like an Inja and still not eat. So slavery is problematic, which is why the Lord, with slavery, in the scriptures, the Bible says that slaves, king masters, treat your slaves well, lest they should rise up against you and rebel, and slaves obey your masters. The only reason why there's even the reason why that allowance or allotment in the scriptures is available for slavery is because human beings are sinners. It's much like the provision for louvers to divorce, right? God does not love divorce. He doesn't like it. He would much rather not it be there. But he says that if you insist on divorcing, it can only be on one ground: marital unfaithfulness. And even then, if you go and you remarry, you still commit adultery. So there are rules around something that God would much rather us not do. But because we are sinners, he makes allowance for it. I believe that he made allowance for slavery even because of that. And that people will take slaves anyway. They will make other people work for them, because I put a judgment on the human race that they must work by the sweat of their brow. So because people are lazy by nature, because they are slaves to sin by nature, they're going to make other people do all their dirty work. So when then you make other people do their dirty work, do your dirty work. Do this at least. Treat them well. And award them proper recompense, if you know what I mean. Compensation. So award them proper compensation. So slavery actually then produced, I suppose, a gainful employment where people are actually ultimately paying people for like hard labor. But if your employer can get away with not paying you as much as your colleagues because you were not that negotiating buff, you will literally be earning 10,000 rands less than your colleague, albeit being a better performer in the same job, and albeit doing, like I said, the exact same job. Better performer, same job, yet earning 10 grand less because you just could not negotiate for yourself. You can't speak, you can't talk, girl. You stutter. So I mean, Kimo Pinky is earning more than you, even though she keeps dropping the ball, and every Monday she's not at work. Udlana the doctor's note. Mara, she earns 10 grand more. Yeah, so work gone wrong makes people exploit the circumstance. And it makes people steal work. And my boss did that to me a lot. That's what could go wrong. Other people could steal your work. Other people could make you do their work. Yeah, and then there is the issue with the kind of work that is done as well. There are plenty of porn star in these streets that thoroughly imagine that they're Christian. There is a OnlyFans girl that out here is hovering the road of the streets of America, calling herself a Christian because she's a virgin, and yet she out here popping her nether regions and her dangling private parts before ogling nasty licentious men within a pornographic space. So therein lies yet another facet of what could go wrong with sex. OnlyFans, yeah. Also, what could go wrong with working as an OnlyFans model. It's not work, not truly, but it is making you money. However, not by the sweat of your brow, just by the stripping of your clothes. So when then you strip your clothes in order to make money, ngari you are a silkworm or a snake shedding its skin, and you think that that's work for you, the Lord then will say to you, "Depart from me, work of iniquity, I never knew you," right? But when you are not absolute in your belief of what work is, first and foremost, you will not work hard, you will take slaves, you will steal other people's work, and then sometimes you'll even work in an industry that absolutely displeases God, right? However, each job, no, not according to God. Each job is not just each job. It has to be a job that does not cancerously afflict the eyeballs of God. It has to be a job that brings glory to the Lord, because whatever you do, whether you eat, whether you drink, do it all for the glory of God. And when you do work, you must work heartily as unto the Lord. People do not work hard. They cheat. And then there's also the issue with laziness, in the sense that you're not pulling your full weight. You're not doing the fullness of your girth. You are brilliant. You could be passing with straight A's. I endured that. I endured myself through that when I was on the come up in school and even at varsity. I knew what I could achieve. I knew how I could pass, but yes, like it, but mina, kito bala. 3 weeks before an exam for what? Nah, kito, it's like notes before lecture. Yo, for any, I was lazy. I was too lazy to essentially meet my full potential. That laziness according to God's word. Because after all, when we work, that's when we eat. Because work brings us money, right? According to God's word, when you're lazy, a little sleep and a little slumber, and a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will overwhelm you like an armed man, and scarcity like a bandit. So essentially, when you don't work, you're supposed to just end up poor. Do you understand? So you could lose out on really great grades where you would get a scholarship at university. That is within the academic space, but within gainful employment space, you could just sit around blobbing until somebody else gets the promotion. Sit around blobbing until somebody else gets the promotion that you would have deserved and that you would have earned insofar as you would have pulled your weight, because indeed you've got the aptitude to do better than that person. It's just that they are working that much harder. This is not to boast, but there was this girl that I went to high school with that was pretty mediocre. She was average in terms of her intelligence, and yet she low-key kind of slayed all of us by the time matric ended because she always used to study. Like, she was so busy. She also used to do her homework. Now, look like a copa homework high to a point where she eventually put her foot down and said no, right? Yeah, she's the only one out of all of us, I kid you not, that got a scholarship to go and study, become accounting or whatever at Wits. And that scholarship also guaranteed her a job in corporate South Africa. As soon as she graduated, while the rest of us had to grovel in the mud out here eating dust just to land an interview once we got out of school. Well, those of us who did get out of school, because now I had to drop out and because mom wouldn't pay my fees and then take myself back to school. But those of us that did graduate had to go through that whole process of career junction, Joe, peanut, Joe, workplace, Joe, and it's been, yeah, we sat around at home gathering dust. She was the only one that after graduating was taken to Durban, Unilever, and then she basically, her career was springboarded. Out of all of us, she was not the most intelligent. If anything, she was among the average. I had very intelligent friends. I had one that was always on the honors roll, like really gifted, really intelligent. She was the only one that got a scholarship though, because laziness, right? A little sleep and a little slumber and a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will overwhelm you like an armed man, scarcity like a bandit. If I had pulled my weight when I was in high school, I would have passed so well so as to not have to have the issue of dropping out because my mom was not paying my fees, because I would have also, just like that chick, gotten a scholarship, but I didn't get one. Why? Laziness. That's what could go wrong when work is not done properly. There are consequences to laziness, but in a last days where nothing is good, nothing is giving, everything is evil, mankind are going to innovate around that, right? They're going to invent new ways to sin. They're going to innovate a way around the consequences of laziness and say that in exchange for hard work in order to get your daily bread, now what you can give is just your allegiance. Just say you agree. Just nod like a bobblehead in a car as I'm driving. And insofar as you can nod and agree to what I'm saying, you will be rich. So laziness produces essentially what I call lottery careers, where it is that all you need to do is pretty much scratch on a card and become a millionaire overnight. But instead of it being you paying lottery tickets, buying them over years until finally you win the lottery, this time around it's just agreeing to join a cult. It's just agreeing to join a satanic organization. It's just agreeing to do a wealth transfer of your family members' money. And it's just agreeing, yeah, you just sit around and a scratch card is your uncle. Your scratch card is your dad. Your scratch card is your daughter. Your scratch card is your cousin. It's out, you're giving 777, and as soon as you like ding 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 777, look at you be a millionaire even though you have not lifted a finger, and look at you also utilize the wealth of yet another person. Satanic rituals being done that insofar as you will allegiance to Satan, you will get the kingdoms of this world, not so much work hard. The devil is the one that tested Christ in the wilderness and said, worship me and I will give you the kingdoms of this world. Scan the periphery, bro. You gon' have money. That's what the devil ought to be offering Jesus Christ. The Lord then responds by saying, thou shalt worship no other God but the one true God. So essentially, according to God's word, when you are presented with a kind of offer, the truth, the absolute truth is that you must say no. I work only for Jesus, I work only for God, I worship only God. I am not going to make easy money by simply betraying everything I've ever known, that the devil might give me the kingdoms of this world. Therefore, occult practitioners are among some of the laziest of people that have found, however, the loophole of making a whole bunch of wealth and eating not by the sweat of their brow, but by the sweat of other people's brow. Hence, this chick from YouTube is eating from the sweat of my brow. I rock up here and I do content. She grabs it, feels uncomfortable that she's not as pretty. I apologize. She feels uncomfortable about the fact that she's not as intelligent. I also apologize. And she also feels uncomfortable about the fact that she's not legit. For that, I don't apologize, because girl, you got an option. Alright? You have an option. That's what's good. You've got your own gifts, you've got your own talents, but look at you stealing mine. I already told you guys in my other video about some other rando YouTube content creator as well that is apparently allegedly a child of God, that however is just absolutely awry when it comes to doctrine, and I was confused about why his doctrine was messed up. So I went and I asked the Lord, how does somebody who is so prophetically gifted not understand from you that they need to leave certain churches and certain doctrines, and God was like, he's not mine. And all of the prophecies that come out of his lips, he's stealing them from saints. And I told you guys about the dream with the 2 babies and the tubes plugged into these babies with him extracting fluid out of them, and those babies representing saints. Basically the banning of true Christians right next to their prophecies being stolen, seeing as they're coming in the name of the Lord truly, and they tend to have veracious information at their disposal. And so they use the prophecies of saints as their own, and then they rock up and they do YouTube channels, right, through transfers of sorts. And the Lord showed me that guy, who is a professing Christian, he has got a Christian ministry and everything, that is thriving on YouTube with millions gained. Like he's hovering on about 1 million subscribers at present, yeah, and millions of views per video, etc. That man, that he's a charlatan, that he's not the real deal, and that he is indeed laziness, right? He is not working and then amassing for himself wealth as a result of his hard labor. He's just taking from other people and monetizing. So therefore somebody is starving. When they burp ash, while he is like satiated, and when he burps, he's burping pizza. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, and the pizza that he's burping thoroughly belongs to someone else. The pizza he is burping belongs to someone else. So the pizza that he's burping belongs to another human individual, or other human individuals. That's what could go wrong with work that is not rooted in absolute truth. When the Lord is not the wind beneath the wind beneath the wings of your gumption, your propellant, your gung-ho. If God is not your jet fuel, you will fly on some strange terrain that's going to rob other people of peace. Do you understand? When you work hard, you earn your promotion, and so you don't embitter people. Like, I have a cousin that the Lord showed me where it is that thing. There are grumbling colleagues on some, I don't even know why this chick is here, because she doesn't have experience. And people despise her for that. She also lied in order to get that job, and the lie was approved by some other person so that she would not get exposed for it. Yeah. Well, when you aren't working honestly and there are other people encircling you working honestly, it then also creates a bitterness. Therefore, sin has no other thing, but has no other eventual effect on the human race other than to cause a great deal of distress. It'll always steal from someone. The devil has come to steal, kill, and destroy, but Christ has come to give us life and life abundantly. So therefore, when there is a theft of peace, when in an ecosystem, upon somebody gaining, there are others that lose, however, that are innocent, right? Because a lot of times when the righteous gain, the wicked are brought low because they were wicked, so it's their day of comeuppance. But when innocent souls lose as a result of somebody's gain, on that day you know a sin has been committed. And a lot of the wicked amass for themselves wealth by taking from other people. So they distress widows, they impoverish, they make orphans out of children, they impoverish men and women, people unable to feed families, people being forced to take children to schools where they get fed breiki, and where they are given free stationery, where they are donated desks by McDonald's, where they are donated school uniforms and whatnot, instead of your own mom being able to buy that for you. I'm all for charity work on the part of the government, but when kids are unable to be catered to by their own parents, and these things are happening as a result of inefficiencies like laziness producing slaves out of their parents, and laziness producing wealth reservoirs for occult practitioners, where they are taking wealth from these parents. They're out here making kids have to eat lunch because mom cannot prepare it at home. It's problematic. We thank God for governments that are doing this for kids, but these resources can run out. That's what work gone wrong can achieve. So the human race that innovates around having to work hard, like I said, produces these inefficiencies, and the culminating event or structure that this ultimately ushers in is the tribulation, where no longer do men buy, sell, and partake in commerce because they studied, they did the time, they gained the skills, and so therefore can improve an economy. They are now buying or selling only because they've taken the mark of the beast, only because they've pled allegiance to Satan. So your character is of no essence, your skills set, no essence, how well you can do, no essence, what you've acquired, literally nothing matters. So all these things, they add up, right? They pile. They add up and they pile. And I'm out here now trying to speak to Indaba Yoguti. Like Malahle, they bought ready to get burned. They bought ready to get burned. There are Christians that are partaking in this shortcut world, this fast food world, this Jahom's world, this red race. And they think that God is a genie in a bottle that they can just keep on rubbing. That's going to give them what they want. Hence why this chick has got a naivety dwelling richly in her crazy bones. work on YouTube, that she's very potentially born again. She thoroughly wants to disqualify what I'm saying and get away with the murder that she's presently committing. Because she imagines that there is no way that God would ever do that to her or hurt her. Like, you know what, human beings have got such a delusion of grandeur. Like, even before I got born again, I imagined God as one that gazed upon me with great favor. I've always believed in God, but I mean, I did nothing special because even the demons believe and they tremble. I've always known that he exists, even though I had doubt. Do you understand? And when I would fathom him, I would literally anticipate that he is looking at me with just so much more favor because of all the benefits I had on the come up. Than the regular person on the street. I felt special, but I was a sinner. I was unsaved. I was a rebel against the God of the universe. And so essentially in that state, despised by him. Yet I imagined myself, there's no way that a holy God would ever do anything nasty to me. I remember every time I would be met with a near-death experience, not that there would be many of them, but every so often I would imagine, what would I do if I was caught in a situation where I was literally facing death? Like a car accident, I can tell that it's about to be a head-on collision and that I'm not going to escape this head-on collision. I would tell myself that I would quickly just say a prayer and say that, God, please take me to heaven. God, please take me to heaven. Because I thought that I could just pull in a favor with God just like that, despite being on the broad road that led to destruction that many enter into. Despite my prayers being an abomination to him, for I was wicked at that time. Despite having so much that left a lot to be desired in the sight of God. So I understand why this chick has got such a delusion of grandeur pertaining the fact that God would never do that to her. She is literally sitting on the chest of a saint of the living God, blocking my content from going ahead, is exhausted at them, feeling at the mercy of crazy men that keep on barking orders at her. And she is carrying on with her insanity, also creating a YouTube channel premised around mine. Doing the work of the gospel without actually really being a true gospel servant. And with her hiding me underneath a bed, however proliferating her own agenda, albeit walking in ways that she is aware are nasty, is of the imagination that there is no way that God is going to do to me what Karabo says God is going to do to me. My oh my, like, I used to think that way, so I get why she thinks that way. However, she's about to be met with great come-uppance, just like with CapCut. I'm getting to points, y'all know I'm going to seal these arguments eventually, somewhere along the way. When I was in high school, and you know, God uses this a lot to help me understand what's going on. When I was in grade 10 in particular, we had this accounting teacher, you will remember, Mrs. Patha. Grade 10 accounting, Sir John Adamson High School, an Indian woman, right? She was petite and she used to have these small little feet, and she always used to like wearing sandals, and because her feet were so small, they would basically grip the outside of her sandals, right? Like this would be her flip-flop, and her toes would low-key kind of be almost on the floor because her feet were so small that her tiny little sandals just could not incubate them for whatever reason. Okay, and we used to tease Mrs. Patha for her toes that were always sticking out of her skinny foot, her sandals, right? Yeah, Mrs. Patha was an accounting teacher, right? And in grade 10, my friends and I were quite intelligent. Well, a couple of us, not all of us. We used to get really high grades, but I used to get A's, and three of my other girls also used to get A's. But we were naughty, right? In accounting, we would get A's. But we were naughty, right? We were really naughty. Always giggling, always whatnotting, really annoying her, and we always also insisted on sitting at the back of the class. Mrs. Patha was not one of those pedantic teachers that insist that you sit at one particular desk. Like, you know, in schools in South Africa, you can't just choose to sit anywhere you want to sit. Like, teachers need to know that that's Karabo's desk, that's Lerato's desk, that's, yeah, type. This teacher didn't care where we sat insofar as we sat down. So sometimes the class would be, like, low-key empty, okay? There'd only be like maybe 15 students in the class. I don't even know why sometimes Mrs. Patha's class was so empty, even though there were so many of us. I think it's because when we went to accounting, some of the students in my class went to business economics. Maybe that's why that class was so empty, but it was always just empty, right? There weren't a lot of students doing accounting. No, it was the difference between a higher grade and standard grade. Thank you. It was business. There was nobody doing business economics in my class. It was the difference between standard grade and standard grade and high grade, and the higher grade students had Mrs. Patha, while the standard grade students had some other teacher, so we went to different classes. That's why that class was so scantily attended. Not attended per se, but there weren't as many students. So because we were so few and there were so many desks, we would just like sit scattered across, like, yeah. And I had this friend with whom we would sit at the back, and we would play musical chairs as to where we sat at the back. And Mrs. Patha didn't care where we sat insofar as we're in the class. However, it was quite disturbing to have like an island of empty desks, and then behind this island there's like these 4 kids on the air. It's like, I would have insisted if I was a teacher that all of you please sit here, close to me, so I can be dealing with you. But she was just this frail, sweet Indian lady. Very brilliant, however, petite and taken for granted. Mrs. Petha, my friend and I, especially this one girl with whom I was really tight. Yes, like it. We stood at the back of the class. And then Mrs. Petha would lament, okay, on some, girls, you need to stop, one day, because of your misbehavior, it's going to reflect in your results. It's one day going to reflect in your results. You are disrespectful, and as for me, I passed at university with a magna cum laude, but you is going to reflect in your results. She would always say that this thing is going to reflect in our results, and that she passed university with a magna cum laude, and so can't nobody tell her jack. And we would sit there on some, sorry ma'am, and then go back to giggling, frustrating the living daylights out of her. However, come exam time, come test time, how every couple of weeks we would write tests, because I get in we would write tests, accounting test would come, and 80%, 85, 90%, 100, 80%, 85, 90%, 100. Just these excellent marks that Mrs. Petha would be handing out. And when she's handing them out, she would look at us on some, here's your script. I get it, she used to say to us, it's gonna reflect in your results one day, it's gonna reflect. And when then the results came, 80%, 90%, we would be doing well. Not that we would shove it in her face, but essentially we took her, we looked at her on some, this woman, she keeps on saying the trophy, or she keeps on saying whatever. We basically wanted, like, it was an air of arrogance that we wore, that you keep saying that our misdemeanors at the back of the class are going to reflect in our results, and yet look at us are just still like skirting the ocean of A and A+ Boulevard. So don't come at us, Mrs. Petha. Don't come at us. And then we would tease her, make jokes, and she, because of the way she used to complain, and she was so frail and so tiny, we would say of her that her bottom lip, when she's complaining, is similar to her toes that grasp or grip her shoes. we used to say that her toes are on the brink of death. We used to say that her toes are on the brink, like she's always on the brink of tears. Her voice was so, it had so many inflections in it that she sounded like a person that was like, what are you doing to me? She used to talk like that, like even when she would, you would think, when you are in her class listening to her, initially you would think she's just really emotional, but she wasn't. That's how she spoke. She had those inflections in her voice. So she sounded like she was just about to break out into tears, and how she used to teach. And when she was shouting at us, more so did she sound like she's about to break out into tears. But at some point we came to discover that she wasn't about to cry, because that's how this woman talks. She wasn't that sensitive. She might have been petite, but she wasn't sensitive, okay? Yeah, we were not bullies of teachers that way. We didn't take pride in the sorrow of teachers. That's not who we were. When she would yell at us, we would listen to her and say sorry ma'am, and then just default back into naughtiness. You know, in the heart of a child dwells a great deal of folly, and the rod of discipline will drive it away from him. If at all we were in a different teacher's class, we wouldn't have taken that teacher for granted, because it literally varied, dependent on how strict the teacher was that we acted. So Mrs. Petha was not that strict, so we used to basically take her for granted. My other classes don't come nonsense. The one over grade 11, Mrs. Collins, we couldn't do that with, okay? Yeah, type establishment thing. Yeah, anyway, whatever. So that was Mrs. Petha, and she sounded like she was always about to cry, but like I said, that's just how she spoke. There's actually a voice effect on CapCut that can emulate that, like, trembling voice where you're like on the brink of tears, like, oh guys, why are you doing this to me? Mrs. Petha used to talk like that. Mrs. Petha and her voice, alright? So my friends and I then made a joke out of it, and we were only able to make a joke because she wasn't actually on the brink of tears. We were not cruel that way. We just knew that so we were like, yeah, her toes and her slippers. Even in winter, she was always wearing those slippers. Her foot was really small, so it would like just kind of almost touch the floor. We're like, guys, we're putting Mrs. Petha on the brink like her toes. We're putting Mrs. Petha on the brink She was super intelligent. One day she was like, I'm with Caesar on some guys. You're putting me on the brink, just like my toes. And then she was like, my bottom lip, it's quivering. You're putting me on the brink, like my toes. Please keep quiet. You're misbehaving and you're putting me on the brink. You're putting me with a bottom lip. You're putting me on the brink. Please stop misbehaving. It's gonna reflect in your results. You're putting me on the brink like my toes. And we would just do this on a loop. Mrs. Pepper all throughout grade 10. And we took for granted because we never ever stopped passing well, except for this one test. This one exam towards the end of the year, it was like a klaparing one of those that come at you. I think at that stage you were studying management, balance sheet, whatnot. I could say some new concepts. And finally, Karabo told us 65%. I gotta get right to the 88. I gotta get right to the 90. Yeah, finally she hands out our script after writing this exam, this test. And I've now got like 65%. Some people would relish at that 65 on some, it's a 65%. But after all, this is Mrs. Panther first and foremost. She passed university with magna cum laude, secondly, right? She passed university with magna cum laude. The students that she's yelling at are potential magna cum laude graduates. They are just soaring in her class despite being just the bane of her existence. And at the beginning of the year up to this particular juncture, whenever she would give them back their test scripts, they are always soaring in the A's. And so all her rebukes are falling on deaf ears, right? Are falling on the ground, sorry. Until one fateful day, our scripts came back. And the friend that I'm always laughing with was maybe sitting on like 72%, which is low for her. I was sitting on 65%, which was low for me. Basically the whole class had not done that well. Like, that exam, but there are those kids that I'm smooth, like butter across all exams, like nothing touches me. Yeah, you will find students that no one that are trapped by nothing. Right, my class was a boffin class, and we had kids like those that just and anybody 1 or 2. But the rest of us that were used to A's, now we were out hovering in CD Boulevard, like the compact disc from back in the day. So, so for the first time in Mrs. Pepper's class, I get 65%. I get 65%. Capacity, I mean, it's not as good as I could do, right? And when the script comes, something in me was aware that Mrs. Peffer's gonna say something. I remember just thinking, hi there, Pimping on my desk. I remember thinking in my head, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, right? Don't say anything. Ma'am, don't say anything. I'm thinking that I'm not saying it, but I'm expecting her to. I remembered all the time she was like, it's gonna reflect in your results. And when she gives me the 60-something% script, I'm like, don't say nothing in my head. And lo and behold, I said, low tagging, Mrs. Peta. She was like, see, I told you this is finding another reflect in yours. Mrs. Peta is like, see, I told you it's gonna finally reflect in your results. You are naughty, and now you no longer have the 80%. Now you're sitting in 65% because you are naughty. At that stage, I'm just sitting there on some. Just taking it. Like, I'm just taking it on some fits. I like, finish what you're saying. But I remember feeling hugely, not offended, but irritated by the fact that she is rubbing it in my face, that she warned me in advance that this year is going to finally start to reflect in my results. And for most of the year, it hadn't. And I was doing well despite the fact that I was naughty and barely listening in class. We were naughty. And now all of us had gotten results that were basically my shankora chomp change to bopo in comparison to what we're used to getting. All of us are clapped by this exam.